things started here. Just kind of give you an update what's going on this week. Right now, it looks like we'll be practicing in the stadium Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and key thing too, we're a little banged up. That'll be a key emphasis too on the course of the week, coming out of a couple physical games here over the past couple weeks. So definitely one of the key objectives is to get the guys healthy and get them feeling pretty fresh come Thursday, Friday. So just a little bit on the injury front within the team. A lot of things are still iffy. Even with Corey Faulkner, really won't know what his availability will be until probably tomorrow. Naturally, he's very sore at this point in time, and he came in and talked to me. In his opinion, he's going to be ready to go. So he feels well enough where that's a possibility. But that's up to us as coaches and athletic trainers to make the final decision on that. And that same thing with a couple of our linemen too. We just need to see where physically what they're capable of doing here Tuesday and Wednesday. But overall, we're not too bad. We've got the normal bumps and bruises from finishing up the third game of the season, and I think by the time we get to the end of the week, we'll feel pretty good about the team and getting ready for Southeast Missouri. So, any questions that you'd like to start with?
With Corey's status, is there, I know you said you'll know more tomorrow, but is there a day that you just want to figure it out by who's going to be the starter this week?
We want to figure that out pretty early.
Yeah.
We're not going to let that linger and be the what if. Now, if he improves to the point where we might be able to plug him in, then we'll do that. But as far as we're going to prepare a certain way once we know for sure if he can or cannot be there. At this point in time, we're assuming that we're going to be without him, so therefore our game planning is along that lines. But all of a sudden insert him is not going to be a big deal or that difficult to do.
How was he progressing Saturday?
Well, he feels better. I mean, he felt good enough to come in my office and say, "Don't rule me out, coach." But that's what you want all your players, with that mentality. So that doesn't mean that he's going to be cleared to play, but his heart's in the right place. He wants to be out there Saturday, and in his mind, he says, if it's hurt, if it hurts, big deal. Everyone plays with a little pain, so he's kind of along that mindset at this point in time.
How much does hurting your non-throwing arm affect your throwing ability as far as technique and the muscle groupings working together?
Yeah, no, there's a push and pull concept that goes with that. So anytime that your extension with your throwing arm is going through, you're actually pulling back with the opposite side of the body. So
it does affect it.
There can be some pain that will result in that. So again, it's not ideal. Naturally, you'd rather be 100% healthy, but it's just not the pain factor too. We got to make sure that he's not putting himself at risk to further injure the shoulder. So there's more factors just than the pain tolerance. But
is it? You probably won't be able to answer this, but is it in the same area that you'd hurt before?
I can't answer that part. Yeah, that one's beyond me. I'm not smart enough to.
Because it didn't seem like anything. He landed just cleanly.
It was a very normal tackle. Nobody fell on him. You can see there was a little thud when he hit the ground, but even there, it wasn't where he was whipped into the ground or anything. So, watching the film, that in itself kind of gives you reason to be optimistic, just because it wasn't a hit where somebody fell on him or he was driven into the ground. It was just kind of a normal hit that occurs.
What they were looking for was a break in that area of a bone, or not necessarily that. Obviously, he's pulled something there, and muscle-wise, but you're looking for a bone.
Yeah, we're not even dealing with muscles right now. We're doing strains and ligaments and that type of stuff. So there is no fracture. So that part of it, naturally you worry. A couple of years ago, Chris Beaker, we were dealing with a fracture with his collarbone. So that was our concern. We just wanted to make sure that that wasn't the case. So here we're looking at a AC strain.
Coach, given how much of your roster is from the St. Louis area, and that this is the first game, college football game ever at the new Busch Stadium, is there a feeling amongst the team right now that this is kind of a special game, or the chance to play in Busch this week?
This was, when I had the opportunity to tell the team that this game was going to be at St. Louis at Busch Stadium, it was fun because the players, you could see it in their face. They got excited. They knew it was something special, especially the kids from the St. Louis area. This is going to be one of those where it's fun to be a part of it, but as a coach, I got to be a lot of distractions that go with it too. So we need to make sure that the focus is on the normal preparation. This is something a little different than normal. The players are going to be extremely excited to be playing at Busch Stadium, to be playing in St. Louis. But then again, that's what you like. You have something special on the season that kind of, I don't want to call it a bowl game feel to it, but there's definitely a different feel to it.
In terms of on-the-field preparation, because you are playing in a baseball stadium, is there any different preparations that go into getting the team ready?
It's still 100 yards. I mean, all that stuff is normal. Probably the biggest with the preparation is both teams are going to be on the same sideline. So with substitutions and calling timeouts, I visited with the officials today, just how all that was going to be handled from an officiating standpoint. So it's going to be different enough where it's different.
Yeah.
I guess how will that affect if you're at the other end, if you're at the other goal line, will they be able to see you pretty well, or what changes do you do there?
Well, and that's, again, you have to be prepared for those situations. You got to be very efficient with your substitution. You have to be thinking ahead, so when you do send players in, it's not one of those where at the 25-second mark you're going to want to be sending a whole different personnel unit into the game. You're going to want to be able to respond fairly quickly if you're on offense. Now defense, that's the one thing too that'll be challenging, but the rules state that they need to allow you enough time to counter substitute. So that's another reason why you don't want to be too late with your offensive substitutions, because that may allow the defense to have 10, 15 seconds to get their grouping out there, and the delay of games and everything else that can come because of that could result. So when the ball is inside the red zone, it's going to create some interesting scenarios that could happen on either side of the ball.
Does it change how you call plays, Dale? I know you
No,
have one guy that.
Red zone's a red zone. None of that. It's just you got to be a little quicker. You got to be a little sharper. I've got to anticipate what's happening out there. We're going to put a lot of pressure on the guys up in the box because if it's on the opposite side, our vision of it's not going to be very good. There's a lot of times when we're on our own sideline. I mean, I'll walk down there just to see exactly where the ball placing is, because even standing on the 25-yard line, I can't quite see where the ball's at. Now, we'll be 55 yards away from that, and that's where it puts a little more pressure on you people up in the box. So, and I've coached in these types of games before where both teams have been on the sideline, and really once you get going, it's not that big of a deal. It's you just kind of realize that you just got to be a little sharper when the ball's on the opposite end. It's kind of nice when it's on your end. So
you have a pretty storied history just of playing SEMO. How would you describe the rivalry during your tenure here?
It's gotten very intense. Naturally in 2010 when they beat us in Saluki Stadium, that intensified everything, and they went on to a great season and won the conference that year. And our games since then have been very heated, been very physical. They play a style of football that is very aggressive, very physical, kind of your old school football. They're well coached. They're I got a tremendous amount of respect for how they play the game, and to beat them, you got to go out and beat them. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're not going to give anything to you, and they just play tough.
You know, what challenges does their running game present?
Well, it'll be just slowing it down. You know, they have you know, some different types of backs, but when they want to be big and physical, you know, they got a fullback that's 5'11", 267, and the tailback that's 5'10", and 240. So when you see them line up against Ole Miss and just kind of run the ball down their throats, I mean, they're capable of doing that. And you know, they have a quarterback, well, two quarterbacks. I'm not sure what the situation there, but Lathrop, who played against us last year, his game has really improved. He's a very good thrower now. He's confident throwing the ball around. He definitely can run the football. You know, so they have some weapons offensively that will be a challenge for us to defend.
You know, because of Snyder getting injured and not playing against Ole Miss, will you have to prepare basically for both quarterbacks?
You have to be aware of both quarterbacks, and you know, unless one of you guys can find out, you know, what his status is and let us know. You know, that's kind of our. But they've had a week off too, so you know, in our mindset, they'll be at 100% healthy. So we'll be preparing for both quarterbacks.
They've given up some big plays, Dale. You know, just really in defense and special teams. You know, how well do you think you're capable of doing that? You've shown some big plays offensively this year.
Well, and that's, you never go in the game saying, you know, okay, these are the plays that we're going to be big. I mean, you just have to put a game plan together and give your players an opportunity to make a big play, to be in position to make a big play. You know, and that's been our game plan the previous 3 weeks. You try to get your players in open space so that they have a chance to make something happen. And you know, I think we have some playmakers on offense that have shown that ability, and you know, that's a big part of our game plan, is just to give those guys the ball and they'll run.
Do you see similar? I mean, they're obviously they had a bye week last week, but they're 0-2. They kind of are sitting where you guys were a week ago. You know, just that hunger and kind of desperation that they need to win. Do you see similarities between where you guys were at?
Again, it's different. You know, it's you know, 0-2 is not fun. I was glad we had a game this past week. I don't like off weeks. You know, so our situation's a little bit different in that fact. I didn't have time to sit back and think about being 0-2 very long. You know, so you know, I'd say to their advantage is that, you know, they just got an extra week to prepare and be healthy, and other than that, I don't know if there's any similarities or not.
They have a whole new defensive line. What have you noticed about them and their defense overall? Do they run a 4-3 still?
Yeah, they still run their 4-3. Their secondary is very experienced. You know, I really like how their defensive backs play. Very aggressive. They'll come up and hit you. Their linebacker core, I think, is pretty deep. They have some good depth, and again, too, they play an aggressive style with their linebackers. Their defensive line is young, but they're very athletic. They like running around. I think they start 2 redshirt freshmen and 2 sophomores, and they will rotate in quite a bit too. So, you know, they're going to get better with each game that they play. So, you know, the experience factor when you're young, each game that you come along, you should get significantly better.
What did you like about Ryan West's composure on Saturday?
Well, it was good just to see we put him in that situation where it was pretty critical, and you know, at that point in time in the game too, everything was still fairly tight, and he just came in and performed. Didn't really have time to think about too much, and now, you know, that was just inserting him into a situation in the game. Now he's going to have to be ready to manage a complete game, which is a completely different ball game. So, you know, and that's where he needs to really trust the people that are around him, you know, both the skilled players and the linemen, and that, you know, everyone has his back and we taking care of him, and he just has to go out there and distribute the football, whether it's handing off or making throws.
With West being a redshirt freshman, and especially with the potential of him playing at the St. Louis game. What steps do you plan to take to help him prepare for it, should he get to go?
Just another week at the office. I mean, it's, you don't all of a sudden change everything. Biggest thing is you'll take more reps with the ones. You know, that'll probably, you'll get a few more reps. Usually your number one quarterback in the course of the week will probably take about 60% of the snaps. You know, so that'll help him too with his game week preparation. And then making sure that we have plays in that he likes. You know, every quarterback kind of has their own favorite play list that they can go to, and you know, so you know, that's our job as coaches, to make sure that he's comfortable with what we're asking him to do.
What's
What's the
the idea of the play at Busch Stadium, and how did you guys get selected for it?
Well, that was Southeast Missouri. They initiated the contact, and I'm not sure who over there. That'd be a question to ask their department. But when they asked myself, would I be interested in a game over there? And you know, there's pluses and there's minuses, but you know, the bottom line fact for me was I know the players are going to enjoy it. You know, and that's where you got to remember why we're doing what we're doing. You know, it's for experiences like this for the student athletes, to make them feel special, to make them, you know, enjoy the opportunity that's given to them, and you know, plus with both programs recruiting significantly in St. Louis, you know, hopefully both schools get more exposure. You know, this should be a win-win situation for both Southeast Missouri and Southern Illinois, that our exposure in the St. Louis market is increased because of it. In fact, yesterday I was already interviewed for, you know, St. Louis radio, just talking about the game. So it's something that's out there that normally wouldn't be out there, and you know, that should be positive.
Coach, how do you balance the wow factor? I mean, is the team going to be able to get into the stadium before, like right before game time, and kind of be able to get in there and see all the atmosphere and stuff like that? And as coaches, how do you make sure that once the ball's kicked off, it's game time, it's focused, and everyone's ready to go?
Well, we'll be in the stadium on Friday, and you know, a couple weeks ago we played at the University of Illinois. You know, so the wow factor really shouldn't be that big of a deal. And what we do, we spend so much time practicing. You know, football is one of those games where you spend, you know, 90% practicing and you get maybe 10% game time. So once the game starts, you know, there should be no outside distractions at that point in time, and you know, that's what you count on, that your players just respond as they've been coached, and you proceed from there.
Can you talk about Juan Carlos Avila? Can you talk about what is his position to the team and how important he is to the team?
Well, Juan, you know, is a story that it's a success story. It's a disappointment story. You know, here he walks on to the football program, ends up working his way into a rotation, gets an athletic scholarship, and then his body doesn't allow him to play anymore. You know, so going into his senior year, he's given the word that he can no longer play football. He would be playing a significant role for us this season, and you know, that part of his dream was taken away from him. But then for him to want to help in any way that he possibly can, and basically be a student coach, helping both within the weight room and on the field, you know, it's one of those stories that he's going to make it into a success story. You know, he's just that type of an individual that is never going to be defeated, and he's going to make the best out of any situation that he's put in, and he's doing that. You know, the players look up to him. You know, he might have even been voted captain had he been, you know, healthy enough to play for us. He's thought of that highly within the team. So, you know, he's just a quality young man that we're fortunate to have in our program.
SEMO agreed to this year. Would you be open in the future to having a game in St. Louis that would have been a home game for SIU, or would that, you'd rather have the home game?
I'd rather have the home game. I'm speaking straight here as a coach. You know, I'd rather have the home game.
What's the biggest differences in style of play that, you see between Corey and Ryan?
Well, Corey's a polished quarterback now. Ryan West is a redshirt freshman. So the biggest difference is the polish. Ryan West can do it. It just sometimes you're not quite sure what you're going to get. So, and that's where we got to make sure we put him in positions that he's comfortable in, and make sure that nothing gets too overwhelming for him. Whereas with Corey, in fifth-year senior, he can put a lot on his plate, and he knows what he can do and can't do. He's more likely to say, "Nah, I don't like this," and if he tells you that, you're going to listen. So, right now Ryan is just, the ceiling is very high. His level of improvement is going to be pretty significant, but he needs some playing time here to start reaching his potential.
What would you consider his strength or his biggest strength on the field?
He's a competitor. I think he has a good quarterback demeanor. When he's in the huddle, he has the confidence of his teammates. Now it's just a matter of playing the game.
When you recruited him, what kinds of things did you see, on tape or from watching him in games in high school?
Pretty much is what I said. He just had that demeanor about himself. With a quarterback, that's a lot of times what you look for, and actually you want arm strength, and you want athleticism. All those traits are there for him. But it's just one of those when you're in a competitive environment, how do you respond? He showed on his high school that he was a competitor that performed at a high level.
Are you concerned if he does have to start this weekend, Dale, he has to start in a game where the football field is going to look funny, it's going to be angled differently? Is that going to be a factor at all, do you think, for him?
I'd only be concerned about that if I told him about that. So don't ask that question.
Well,
I don't want to be putting too many thoughts in his head. It's a 100-yard field. It's actually straight. It's not crooked. It's going to be a different environment. Every road game you play in is different. Every venue you go into is a little bit different. So it's not, we go up and play at South Dakota State and on the prairie. It's different. When you're in the dome at the Unidome or North Dakota State, it's different. That's just the nature of being on the road, and this is a road game for us. So, that's what we got to be able to adapt to and not make it a big deal, because it's not.
How important is it for the running game to perform well to knock some of the pressure off of West?
Well, and I've been saying this, we need to run the football, and we need to run it better than what we've been doing, so we'll continue to make an emphasis on that. And for us to be successful, our run game has to continue to improve. And, I'm still optimistic. I'm still very encouraged about how it's coming together. So I'm hoping this is a big week for us to be able to, really take another step forward.
Coach, can you talk about, you have a lot of first year, you've gotten a lot of transfers since you've been here, but it seems like you've gotten a little bit more this year that are playing big time minutes for you, like Keytre and Rayshawn. And have you recruited transfers differently in the last year?
I think, again, I don't think the numbers are all that different because, every year you're going to take a handful of guys that are going to come in. You have some voids. We need some help on the defensive line, and that's where you get Keytre and Rashawn. We needed some help at the corner position, so we brought in some corners. We needed to improve our offensive line and running back, so those were kind of the main areas there. So it's more position specific. It's kind of where you're at within the team that you need to solidify, and it's a big part of FCS football. That's one thing with all programs across the country, their ability to bring in the transfer, to bring in a junior college player here or there is very important, but you still have to have the majority of your team being those 4- and 5-year players. So I think that's the key component, because they're the ones that carry the tradition and understand the uniqueness to the program that they belong to.
Do you think Keytray or any of the other transfers have, I guess, acclimated quicker than you thought? And usually, sometimes it takes a couple games.
Well, and that's where it's important to bring these guys in as soon as you can. So, with Keytray, he was brought in January, and so he's been around quite a bit. He's, had this whole spring to learn the defense. So now Rashawn didn't join us until, fall camp, basically. So, his learning curve has been a little smaller. But Keytray's been a great addition, as has Malcolm Agnew and Ken Malcolm, and, a number of our guys have been very good additions.
Coach, this week College Game Day is headed to your home state, and I was just curious your thoughts on that and just the exposure for the FCS logo in general.
Well, it's being a North Dakota native, I can say this. I think people's perception of North Dakota is way out of whack. So when all of a sudden you have a football team up there that's pretty good, and we've been playing good football up there for a very, very long time, people kind of wonder what's the story, what's going on here. So North Dakota State does an excellent job with their football program, how they present themselves. It's a big time atmosphere there, and I've recruited against them many, many years where you go up there's not a whole lot of difference between that program and what you see in some big time colleges. So this is a deserving honor for them. They'll do it upright. They'll represent the state at a very high level. So that's about as many compliments as I've been given North Dakota State. So I think I'll stop there.
Do you expect the whole state to be there? I would imagine they're going to have a pretty big crowd.
Well, they always have a big crowd. They sell that place out, and there's the thing that exists up in North Dakota is that home state pride, because the state is very small. There's only 650,000 people that live there, in the entire state. So when you start getting national recognition, there is a pride factor that develops within the community. And North Dakota State has it going in football right now. The University of North Dakota's hockey program, brings out that same type of recognition, and there's just people up in North Dakota love their sports. They're avid sports fans. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.